The one-shot Age of Rebellion Luke Skywalker comic came out this week, and of course, I have a crazy theory that it was actually Palpatine that pushed Luke to become the hermit we saw him as in The Last Jedi. I know. I love tinfoil.
You're fulfilling your destiny.
If you're not familiar with Star Wars comics, this is just an anthology series that takes place during each of the trilogy series. Age of Rebellion is obviously taking place during the original trilogy. Age of Resistance, which comes out next month, I believe, takes place during the sequel trilogy. And then, let me look really quick what the prequel trilogy one's called. The answer is, I left my phone over there and I can't tell you, sorry. So I want to give you a quick summary of the one-shot comic that is canon, by the way, that I'll be talking about in this video, that goes into my theory that Palpatine was the one that pushed Luke to become a hermit. The first temptation of Luke Skywalker. After learning the true identity of his father, Luke continues his training and prepares for the inevitable showdown, determined never to follow the path of Vader. But when a rebel general's mistakes lead to disaster, and Luke must seize command, the dark side tempts him as never before, featuring the eerie influence of the Emperor. I'd argue this definitely isn't the dark side of the Force tempting him as ever as before, because we know from other canon, Luke has definitely been tempted by the dark side and almost slipped into it. I'm not gonna give spoilers for certain material, but Luke has some brushes with the dark side. I guess I would agree that maybe this is the first kind of dark side temptation that he experiences in this one shot. So during a mission to get fuel for the rebellion, Luke Skywalker helps the rebels by just destroying the Imperial droids on the ship. I mean, he just decimates them. And you can see he's wearing his sexy black outfit from Return of the Jedi, and he's just a complete bamf. Just mowing down droids. He also has a reputation among the rebels as that Luke Skywalker, though we know after he destroyed the first Death Star, he already had quite the reputation. Palpatine is understandably upset that Luke has eluded Vader so far, and Palpatine decides, I'm going to ponder on Luke for a little bit. Luke, of course, can feel something evil focusing on him, but he doesn't know it's the Emperor. Later, when they're trying to escape with the fuel, Luke senses something isn't right and wants everyone to jump right away. The Major, who distrusts Luke because the only other man he's seen use a lightsaber like he did was Vader, tells him they're going to wait and kind of bust his balls, letting him know, I'm in charge. Are you gonna listen to me? I don't care about your feelings. His waiting allows for the Imperials to jump to their location and attack. Luke is upset that if the Major had listened to them, there wouldn't be all this death and destruction, and they wouldn't be in this situation. And this is when Palpatine kind of latches on and uses the Force to kind of push Luke down a certain path. Palpatine, while he knows Luke can't hear him, he can read Luke's heart, and he knows the truths that Palpatine speak to him. And what Palpatine says is important, using the Force to influence Luke and to give in to his temptations. He says these fools will get them all destroyed because they won't listen to Luke. And here is the most important bits of what Palpatine says. They ignored you, and now so many suffer. But it's your fault too, isn't it? You let them ignore you, even though you know they're weak, even though you know you're strong, and now you grieve. I can feel your pain, your guilt. It's too much, but it doesn't have to be this way. Just imagine. Imagine if you gave yourself permission to fly away, to leave this lost war behind.
We then see Luke envision leaving the rebellion behind, crashing his X-Wing into the water, throwing away his lightsaber, and living a simple life. He even finds a redhead. Nice wink, guys, and has a family away from the war.
But when Luke finally comes to and returns to the fight, Palpatine is pissed. Luke resisted that temptation of a future of peace and happiness, and instead Luke joins the fray and keeps fighting. Here's the line that really digs that in. So Palpatine senses that Luke has joined back into the fight and hasn't given in to the temptation to just leave the war, and this is what Palpatine says. No, Skywalker, you can't escape yourself so easily. Do you hear me? So now I want to quickly change gears and talk about how Palpatine is back in Episode 9, which we know he is, and how his essence or consciousness may have influenced Luke to be the person we see him as in The Last Jedi. And I know that sounds batshit crazy. Really, it's not, and there are canon explanations for it. I swear I'm only like a tiny bit crazy. So I want to talk to you about my belief that Palpatine's essence is tied to the Death Star 2 or something in it, so when he died, his presence remained. To do that, let's talk about the Mask of Lord Momin, which was created by a Sith Lord named Momin, and during his death, only his mask remained and his consciousness was engraved in it. At one point during the OT, Momin even was able to possess a body, open the door to the dark side, and resurrect his original body, because if you were left alone with the mask in an enclosed area, you could be corrupted by the dark side of the Force. This corruption was able to control and influence the bodies of those that were near it, even after they were dead. So you didn't even have to wear it for it to influence you and communicate with you. You just had to be near it. The mask has controlled people before, including someone that wore it, became possessed, and designed the fortress for Vader in minutes. To kind of summarize my other video where I talk about my theory that Palpatine had controlled Snoke, I know, every time I say that, I'm like, people are already going, I'm watching an insane person's channel. But basically, I think Palpatine did what Lord Momin did, and Palpatine knew about Lord Momin's mask, that Palpatine engraved his consciousness or essence into an artifact or even the Death Star 2, and now it remains in the Death Star 2 ruins, which we know are in Episode 9. Honestly, it's not far-fetched at all, because we know tons of Siths have left their essence or consciousness tied into certain objects. So, Sidious doing that? Yeah, why wouldn't he? Which brings me to Snoke, who we know loves arcane lore, and he may have been a collector of dark side objects. He had that spiffy ring, that obsidian stone from Mustafar under Vader's castle, because the dude he was a collector. So my thoughts are Snoke went to the ruins of the Death Star 2 trying to find more arcane lore. He knew of Palpatine, so he probably thought, I could find something of his to increase my knowledge. And I don't think Snoke was expecting that when he went to the Death Star 2 ruins that he would be corrupted or controlled by Palpatine's essence or what was left of him that was tied to an artifact or the Death Star 2. So Snoke goes into the ruins looking for artifacts and knowledge and gets possessed by Palpatine's consciousness. This could be why Snoke was so powerful. When people were possessed by Momin's mask, they could do incredible things. Snoke could have been Force proficient, but not nearly as amazing before Palpatine took control. So Palpatine controlled Snoke in order to acquire more power. Maybe he was still all about that galaxy control. Unfortunately, when Snoke was killed, his essence returned to his tether that was in the Death Star 2, or is the Death Star 2. And maybe Palpatine found a way through Snoke to become more powerful, or it's easier for him to control other bodies. I mean, he could have been in Snoke's body for a really long time. Okay, I know that was a whole lot to get to the actual theory, but I needed it to make sense with what I'm about to say, and why I think Palpatine was the one to kind of push Luke into becoming the person he was in the sequel trilogy. Because we now know Palpatine is in Episode 9, and according to Lucasfilm, Palpatine is the main villain of all 3 trilogies. Now, I want to state that doesn't mean Palpatine wasn't killed by Vader. He was, but his essence lived on.
No one's ever really gone.
I do want to acknowledge real quick that I'm not saying that Luke becoming a hermit was 100% Palpatine's fault. Like Palpatine said, you can't run from yourself, you can't hide from yourself. Doing that was always within Luke, but when he was younger, he was a bit more idealistic, like many of us are, and he could fight those temptations to run away or leave everything behind. But as he became older and more disillusioned, it was easier to be tempted and for a dark side user to kind of push him more down that path, which would help a lot of people with him igniting his lightsaber on his nephew. But I'll get more into that. So again, I'm not saying the Emperor is 100% responsible for Luke abandoning Leia and the galaxy. I'm just saying Palpatine took advantage of that weakness or that possibility within Luke and pushed it more or brought it more out via the Force. Just like he did in this one shot. Because really think about it, if Palpatine has been the main villain of all 3 trilogies, as Lucasfilm is saying, what would Palpatine want to do to ensure his return to power? He'd want to get rid of Luke Skywalker. Okay, he tried before by using that dumbass Major who didn't listen to him and saw a bunch of people getting hurt because of that. That didn't work. Luke's older now. Oh look, he has a nephew that's strong in the Force. If I turn his nephew to the dark side and have him destroy everything Luke worked towards, that might do it. That might finally push Luke to do what I was pushing for.
Crash your X-Wing. Throw away your lightsaber. Go live the easy, peaceful life away from the Force and the responsibility of war and protecting these people.
And this time in Luke's old age, Palpatine finally found the right push at the right time to get Luke to walk away and abandon everything. Oh no. Now I can rise to power because pesky Luke Skywalker is gone. I truly believe in Episode 9 we're going to see Rey and Kylo face off against Palpatine, with him controlling another body, hopefully one of the Knights of Ren. So hopefully in Episode 9, Kylo can finally...
And I will finish what you started.
Thanks so much for watching. Please like the video and subscribe for more Star Wars videos.